As the culture war continues to rage and is getting to the point where things might finally start changing and for the better, we've hit a really weird speed bump. Something going on that I really wasn't expecting to happen, at least not so soon, and it's all centered around Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. As the Gamergate 2 crowd have quickly found a massive schism between each other, as one side is taking an incredibly strong Puritan stance, first starting with the goonergate situation that was going on, and the other side being like, hold up, let's not get too carried away, let's keep our heads about us and actually deal with common sense. And this is all taking form because, to no one's surprise, the person known as John Arroz has been out there completely freaking out over the fact that you can play Henry as a gay man in Kingdom Come Deliverance, or I guess bisexual, because you can choose to romance male characters. So some of the more puritanical actors in this side are freaking out, claiming that this is an act of wokeism, saying that this is all being done explicitly to make the game more DEI heavy, and it's all Embracer Group's fault, and this makes the game bad, without really doing anything much to substantiate it. And I would love to hear their actual line of reasoning. Because being gay inherently doesn't make one woke or leftist. That's not what that means. Player choice isn't an inherently woke stance. I mean, if it all it takes to be woke is being not straight, sorry guys, I guess I'm not a conservative anymore. Oh well. But the other problem with this, aside from the news that has come out about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, some of which I've already covered, there's also the fact that the creator of the game, Daniel Vavra, is losing his mind online. He is going absolute batshit crazy at people on Twitter. He's saying stupid things, he's attacking people. He said what all far leftists say when you criticize their game. Just don't buy it. And that is the last thing you want to say, because that is a death whistle that will usually kill your game. Now thankfully Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is standing pretty strong. And on top of all the culture stuff, we're still getting some legitimate criticism, as some of the much stronger people within our sphere are going around and actually trying to play through the game so they can definitively say whether or not the things in the game are a problem or if we're just making things up. The main one being Endymion TV, who has some severe criticisms of the game, mostly drawing back to problems in the first game, so we'll also be getting that. But before getting further, like, subscribe, and let's get into this. Now, the first main thing that's going on here is a whole lot of people, as I mentioned, that schism that's going on, as half of the super-based creators on X seem to be trying to celebrate and encourage this game to fail, whereas the other half seem to be like, let's be honest about this, let's not make shit up, let's not lie to our audience, let's not be disingenuous. As Yorch Torch Games had made a tweet, Kingdom Come 2 has now fallen below GTA 5 in concurrent totals. An 11-year-old game is beating Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 on launch day. Get woke, go broke. To which Hypnotic responded, it's cool people went to sleep, my guy, showing that there was a dip approximating the time of when most people are usually asleep in the Western Hemisphere. And checking seem to be at the current moment, Kingdom Come Deliverance is in fact above Grand Theft Auto 5. Now the reason why those numbers are being used, if you look at Grand Theft Auto's charts, it's pretty consistently going on. The constant ways to go with the flow and ebb of time, but it's pretty consistently high. The game hasn't had any really major changes at all. Whereas if you compare Kingdom Come Deliverance's numbers, you're going to see that it's pretty consistent with game launched here, immediately jumped up to here, had a little bit of drop off right here for sleeping, because this is between the hours of 3 a.m. to 9 a.m., and then goes back up to being heavily played. And on the second day of release, the game has made its all-time peak. In fact, that was 4 minutes ago. And here from Pirate Nation is showing that tweet from Daniel Vavra where he said, don't buy the game, when Miss Lurker had criticized the game, was this even necessary, in reference to how you romance Hans in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. In another tweet from Hypnotic, he posted, good morning my neighbors, not looking good for the goonergates calling flop on this one, lol. They announced 1 million sales in just one day, unlike Veilguard that still hasn't announced it. This game needs a little over 1 million sales to break even, so it's on its way to Profit City. And of course, people are getting mad at Hypnotic, who is generally one of the most based people in this field, and is a very great content creator. People are trying to call him out saying he's a hypocrite or he's a goalpost shifter, as this person down here had mentioned. You don't see what these YouTubers did? Woke is okay now, it's optional. They moved the goalposts. Hypnotic, however, responds, being gay is not woke. I'm sorry if you feel that it is. And like I said earlier, it's not. Gay isn't an inherently political stance, and player choice isn't an inherently political stance. Last time I checked, I'm running this channel with a specific political leaning, despite my sexuality. And if you guys have an issue with that, oh well, I don't care. But it's really just boiling down to a lot of Puritans versus common sense, people who have been very consistent. The issue isn't whether or not there's a choice, the issue is whether or not you are forced to make a choice. You know, in Dragon Age the Veilguard, you don't really get to choose, it's always forced on you. But in order to date Hans, you have to make an active choice to do so. Now, of course, I do have some issues with the nature of going after Hans, because so far, I'm a couple hours into Kingdom Come 1, and by a couple, I mean 24 hours, and so far, Hans seems to be a pretty big womanizer and have no interest in sexual relations with a man, so I do feel like that's a bit of a retcon from the previous game, but I suppose I can let something slide if it's in honor of gameability, given the fact that I heavily doubt that romance is the canon one, especially when you consider the canon is mostly rooted in history. But as I said, player choice is rarely a bad thing, so either way, I don't mind it too much, especially because you have to take active effort to romance Hans. Now, I am waiting for more info to come out, specifically from the creators like Endymion TV, to see what's going on with the game. Now, Endymion has been doing his best to cover, and I've only read a few of them, so let's go through the kind of things that he is reporting about the game. He mentioned that there is a decent amount of audio and visual bugs so far, with music cutting out, characters stuttering, shields become invisible or weirdly textured. Now, these kind of glitches, while absolutely disgraceful, are unfortunately commonplace in the gaming industry now. It's basically impossible to get a new release that runs well. He also covers the fact that the Savior Schnapps, which was maintained from Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, is a terrible system, which he's right. The Schnapps is a terrible system, because it really punishes you for trying to save the game. Now, thankfully, there's only been a handful of times where I felt a need to manually save, but at the same time, because of the limited nature of saving and how rare checkpoints are, I've also lost countless hours, because I randomly ran into a group of guards who were significantly higher level than I was out of the blue. But most of the criticisms Endymion levies against the game are highly consistent with how the first game ran and worked, such as combat being clunky and beds not working very well. And of course, SmashJT, who's one of the most highly respected voices in this space, had also made a statement that after streaming tonight, watching IGN's hardcore gay walkthrough, chatting over the gay stuff with Real Hypnotic 1, and deep diving gayness in gaming over the years, I've confidently concluded that Kingdom Come Deliverance is not gay. Player choice does not equal forced options, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. You can play Cyberpunk and you could choose to get with the male strippers, you could do all this stuff with the men, and you can do gay stuff with that, or you could be straight, and that doesn't make the game inherently gay. The only problem is when you have to choose a stripper that one time, the guy's stripper name sounds too feminine, so you think it's a woman, and it's not, but whatever. I'm also kind of offended that I wasn't included in a chat about gayness in video games. I'm the perfect example. And now we get to the meat and potatoes of it all, where it gets really freaking ridiculous, which is when Daniel Vavra started going to war with John Della Rose, who made a tweet, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is one of the biggest insults to gamers and Christians in recent years. To which Daniel Vavra responds, this caricature of a man is literally crying and whining for a month about one optional choice in a side quest in a 100+ hour game without even playing it. Imagine how insecure he must be about his own preferences. Meanwhile, everybody who actually played the game doesn't give a fuck. To which Benjamin Long, I'm not sure who that is, but he's another creator, responded, you've riled up the fur of he who gets pounded by Lucario. To which led to one of the funniest discoveries possible, Daniel Vavra discovering John Della Rose's cross to bear. To which Daniel Vavra responds to John Della Rose with, first of all, is this you? Showing some proprietary information regarding John Della Rose that involves some nasty business regarding domestic violence. Then it also shares a few other images. Are these species gay? Showing a Lucario and a Mewtwo starting the process of yiffing, with him referencing how John Della Rose himself is the yiff master. And then this one of a very seductively posed Lucario with a very importantly placed tail. Defender of Christian values against appearance of those evil homosexuals in games sharing some spicy furry gay asses. These anti-woke warriors are even more funny than good old social justice ones. Did I just make a name for them? Could we call them AWWs? And this is of course Daniel Vavra making fun of John Della Rose, who constantly posted Lucario porn on his channel. And you can still find these on Twitter as far as I'm aware, unless he's gone and deleted them. Now I did just check, and I'm not going to show it on YouTube out of fear of getting my channel taken down, but it's still there. He still has Lucario, he still has a picture of Eevee in a bikini, he's got a whole bunch of other things still on his channel, so at least props for sticking to you guys and not deleting it. The one thing I'll say is, if you've got crosses to bear, you shouldn't be out here making statements that would be destroyed if those crosses were to come out. Say what you will online, but don't encourage people to go looking through your closet to see if they can find any skeletons. Now, to be clear, I don't have any inherent issue with Arroz. I'm not calling him for anything specific, though I do have an issue with some of his hypocrisy, but that's not an attack on him as a human, that's just him for saying stupid things online. But, of course, this is just absolutely hilarious that he's allowing himself to get dunked on so aggressively by Daniel Vavra in a game that he's criticizing, claiming it's degenerate when he's doing far more degenerate things. Is that really the face you want to put out there for yourself, Arroz? And while I think it's absolutely hilarious that Daniel Vavra is going after that, it does raise a question of whether or not he's being a little too defensive in his actions, if he's going a little too far, being a little too aggressive. And that leads to him also having some issues where he's called out a few other reviewers and critiques who have left less than positive reviews on his game. As over on Metacritic, the group GameSub left the review, Come Deliverance 2 is a game that unabashedly demands you meet it on its level, which I do find somewhat admirable. I just constantly found it to be a miserable slog to engage with, where everything was 10 times more overblown than it had any business being. There's a fascinating sandbox deep down within it, but digging through the mountain of muck to appreciate it was simply more than I could stand most of the time. Now, I don't really know how I feel about the review, because while the difficulty and the over-exaggerated evolvedness is necessary to the Kingdom Come world, that's like complaining about Elden Ring being too difficult, in my opinion. I also get where he's coming from. There's so much to keep track of. Saving is a pain in the ass. Gear menus are kind of messy, though hopefully they've been improved in Kingdom Come 2. And combat is really just a slog half of the time, especially if you're dealing with more than one enemy. And while I've heard that the group enemy fighting is easier in Kingdom Come 2, it doesn't seem to be improved that much. And this leads to Daniel Vavra responding, a trusted news source. Mission accomplished. We no longer have 90% Metacritic score. Be proud of your excellent journalistic standards. Now, I didn't pick up on this being a nasty remark when I first read it, but apparently everyone else did, and in his responses, Vavra makes it very clear to continue pushing down that this was a negative response. There's also a decently concerning trend of Vavra going after everyone who criticizes the game, and that's one thing you really don't want to be. The last thing you want to do is turn yourself into some kind of lolcow, freaking out over every little thing and every single comment. In reality, Vavra should keep a little bit better air of professionality instead of going out here and attacking anyone who disagrees with him, but I understand that his name is being called into question. Now, also coming from Pirate Nation over at X, there seems to be some evidence that Steam might be deleting negative reviews, and if that's the case, that's a pretty concerning thing and not something that should be happening at all. Steam has made it very clear that they don't want to get involved in content moderation, and that's a stance they should stick to, even if they're defending a game that people are praising. Now, the one thing I will say is this review isn't really about the game itself, it's about the meta around the game. And while I normally support reviews like that, it looks almost as though this person bought the game, booted up one time just so he could leave a review, given the fact that he has 0.1 hours in the last 2 weeks. So at the end of the day, the entire situation around Embracer Group and David Vavra and Warhorse and goonergate and gamergate and all of these different factions is kind of crazy to look at. The infighting starting a little bit sooner than I wanted it to. It's all getting a little bit more ahead than it should have and a bit faster than it should have. But things aren't terrible just yet. It's kind of a small schism between some extremists who might never have actually been on our side to begin with. If you want more reference on that, you should go check out my goonergate videos. But most people are able to keep their heads about them, and even if they have an issue with some of the stuff, they're not going out and calling the game woke. They're just complaining about how they can't support that kind of thing, which I guess is a bit more respectable, instead of giving it a false label. And then Daniel Vavra coming out here and being so aggressive with his response to criticism is another thing that's getting a little bit ridiculous. He needs to rein it in a bit, but honestly, I'm going to hold off on buying Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, because buying full price games is for losers, and I'm still only 24 hours into Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and have a long way to go. But at the same time, I need to wait for people who I trust, being in Damian and SmashJT and a few others, to finish getting through the game so I can hear their review to understand whether or not the game actually has any of the real problems, or if it really is a game worth my time. But that's pretty much all I've got, so let me know what you guys think about this, and I will see you guys on the next one.